Hi everybody, welcome back to my next, I almost said movie review. I don't think so. This one, being that, and I've mentioned this before, that I got a degree in English, I could kind of find humor behind this. But on the other hand, I could see where it got taken the wrong way, and I can understand. This is about school. And this is actually from ABC News, and was reported by Ashton Mara, and it's called Hot for Teacher Essay Lands Student in Trouble. A Michigan college student is crying foul after he was kicked off campus for writing a sexually suggestive journal entry about his teacher for a class assignment. Joseph Corlett, a 56-year-old countertop refinisher who is pursuing a degree in writing and rhetoric at Oakland University, wrote the essay as part of a creative writing journal assignment in a writing course. In his essay, which he said was inspired by the 1984 Van Halen hit Hot for Teacher, he wrote about his first impressions of his professor, Pamela Mitzfield, describing her as tall, blonde, stacked, smart, and articulate. Corlett said he was under the impression that there was no restrictions on what he could write about in his journal. The real issue is the First Amendment, Corlett said. It's about academic freedom and about due process. These are the real issues of the case, and the sooner we get past the titillation of it and see these issues, the better. Mitzfield and Oakland University declined requests for comment from ABC News, but the university has made its position known in its disciplinary action against Corlett. In January, after a campus hearing, the university found Corlett guilty of intimidation. Another charge for sexual harassment was dropped. Corlett was suspended for 3 semesters, banned from stepping foot on campus, and required to seek out psychological counseling before he could be eligible to re-enroll, according to the documentation provided to ABC News by Corlett. On here, with this, like I said, I got a degree in English, and I've had to do one of those journals for class, but I've had the good sense to not write about, like my thoughts on the professor or whatever. Like I talked about class, or I just wrote down some hodgepodge about my dog that I had at the time. And, about, like, the fact that because it was in 1995 that I had to do this, before I went to England, and I talked about how I was looking forward to going to England, and I was kind of nervous, traveling out of the country on my own for the first time, and blah, 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 so on and so forth, stuff along those lines. I mean, I had enough sense back then when I was 20 to not write about, like, I think the teacher is hot, or whatever. Actually, the teacher I had for that class, as it turns out, is a cousin of mine, and the now deceased chair of the English department at NKU, which is the funniest part. So, it's a good thing I didn't, I also, I loved having him as a teacher. In fact, I got interviewed when he passed away about that. But anyway, I mean, that aside from my experiences, I really think that, this guy here, Corlett, should have thought about that, because really, I mean, it's like level of appropriateness. It's like if you would not say that stuff, like, in class or whatever, and think about it, you wouldn't say that kind of crap to somebody, I mean, unless you're in a relationship or in a setting where you understood a relationship and an understanding where, you would say something like that. But, I mean, really, this guy should have thought about what he was writing, before he actually put pen to paper. It just, there's something wrong with it. I mean, if he, wanted to talk about, the Van Halen hit Hot for Teacher and said, I think that there's, some teachers here that are good looking, you know, I mean, you know, or like say something like I was listening to Van Halen's Hot for Teacher, and I thought that, you know, looking around some of the teachers, you know, and not name names or anything, you know, I mean, that would be innocuous enough. I mean, that's skating close to the edge as it is, but, you know, not come right out and say, you know, I think the teacher's gorgeous or whatever. I mean, that's, you know, that can really profoundly make a situation, a teacher-student situation, uncomfortable in a hurry. You know, I mean, and that's what his problem was, is he didn't obviously think about that before he wrote that. I mean, come on. But anyway, you know, I think as far as like the punishment goes, you know, I mean, like I could understand them having a zero tolerance, you know, or zero tolerance policy for sexual harassment and everything. But I think if I'd been, you know, like an administrator for the school, I would have investigated it further and sat this guy down and asked him, you know, asked Corlett, you know, hey guy, what was, you know, were you meaning it in a sexual way, you know, like I would have investigated it a little bit further other than, you know, and just talked to him and said, you know, look, you know, this does affect, you know, what, you know, we decide and how this is going to go. You know, I would prefer that you be upfront and honest with me about it and tell me the truth and what have you, you know. And then, you know, if I felt that he was, you know, going to harass the teacher or whatever, or it was far more egregious than what, you know, it was far more egregious than, you know, anything else, I would have definitely administered that, you know, punishment on him. But of course, like I said in this article, you know, because I read it verbatim, you know, really, you know, I think that, you know, the school went a little tiny bit overboard with it, you know. But I mean, it's, you know, you gotta, you know, fix it in one hand, half dozen in the other. What do you do? You know. Well, anyway, I'm gonna pause here because, like as I've mentioned in the last two videos, you know, I've got a whole bunch of videos to shoot. So, hang on and I'll be right back, okay?